In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And when you hear the word from God, it will make you God. Chapter 27, Matthew. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. They saw this was the morning time. In the morning, all the chief priests and elders, they conspired together against Jesus, how we could put him to death. Then in the meantime, Peter, of course, just prior to that, denied Jesus 3 times. And later on, he was very, very sorry about it. He repented over it and wept over the fact, bitterly, over the fact that he did not have the strength and the courage to speak the correct thing. So his integrity was at stake. Peter's. For every man in life is always at some point in his life beset with a similar situation, wherein his integrity is questioned or comes into play. There is a worldly integrity and a spiritual integrity too. And time and again, a person is tested with those. And integrity is a testing time when you don't have that necessary strength and the courage to speak and say what is correct, irrespective of its consequences. One must stand by it, stand by what is correct and what is true, and not deviate from that. So that is where one's integrity comes into the picture. So there's a worldly integrity in worldly matters, and there is also a spiritual integrity. So in a spiritual integrity too, when one is leading a spiritual life, one is supposed to, as best as possible, to follow the spiritual laws and rules of living. So there too also one's integrity comes into question, spiritual, when one deviates from the right path. So one's spiritual integrity is also questioned at that time. So this is a phenomenon we find in the world indeed. So Peter denying this is an indication that mankind too would be similarly tested during the course of their respective or individual lives. Now, when a man maintains his life with integrity, he gets integrated. A person gets integrated. And as he gets integrated, he becomes one. He becomes whole. He becomes whole by that. He does not get fragmented. He does not get fragmented into other matters, but is one and whole. So he gets integrated. Integrated means self-integrated. So a person who is self-integrated is a solid person. Is a solid person. It's like the rock. Like a rock. Like the rock of Gibraltar. Rock which will not wobble. However much the waves come and buffet it, either from the Mediterranean or from the Atlantic, it stands firm. The rock of Gibraltar. So like that also when Jesus said, Peter, thou art the rock upon whom I will build my teachings. Build my teachings, not the church, build my teachings, from which the teachings will spread. For Peter, thereafter, having repented for his little lack of integrity, then thereafter, having gone through the practices and the disciplines which had been enjoined in the teachings of Jesus, later on fortified himself. He self-fortified himself and became the rock. Became the rock. That's why Jesus said, thou shalt be the rock. The firm, the person. So therefore, every person can become a rock. A rock firm, who is firm and solid. And here too also, Peter thus got baptized too with the Holy Spirit, and in due course went through his spiritual practices and disciplines and became firm and steady, and he went about giving the teachings along with the disciples. So therefore it is very appropriate, very significant that the denial of Peter has its human relevance too, in the human race. For there is nothing in the incidents described in the 4 Gospels which is not relevant. There is a hidden meaning and a hidden sense in every little episode which happened or transpired in the 4 Gospels. Then thereafter, when the morning was come, all the chief priests conspired how they could put Jesus to death. So that they had decided that we must finish this person. And when they had bound him, they tied him. And led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. They didn't want to personally do it because the multitude would be angry. So they wanted to give it to for that awesome improper act to be handed over to be done by the Romans. And for it was a custom at that time that Jews only did stone a person to death, which they couldn't have done to Jesus. But nevertheless here, so they handed him quietly over to, so that the Romans can do the dirty work. So, delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, so Judas in the meantime had betrayed, felt remorse when he saw that Jesus was condemned to death. He felt a great deal of remorse that he was an instrument for this purpose. So repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, so that for which Jesus was sold, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And he told the priest, that I have sinned and betrayed the innocent blood of Jesus. And they said, what is that to us? What do we care about it? It's your problem. So you see thou to that. It's your problem, you take care of it, we are not concerned. And they rejected to take and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, since they didn't, and he threw it. Judas, he threw it onto the premises of the temple, and departed and went and hanged himself. He threw the 30 pieces of silver, departed from the temple, and went and hanged himself in sheer remorse. And the chief priest took the silver pieces. You can see how greedy they are. They pick up things which are thrown, things which are thrown to the dogs. So you can see the type of nature they possess. If somebody throws something, some article, however valuable it is, giving is different, throwing is different. When it is thrown, are you a dog to pick it up? So this shows the character of the priest. So the priest took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful for to put them into the treasury. It is not all right to put it into our treasury, because it is the price of blood, because it is bad money. So once again it is indicated that one should not, once again there is a teaching here, that one is not entitled for personal use. The money begotten by the shedding of blood, wherever it is, the blood of another person, by which you make money. So in certain types of professions too, this always happens. So one should not become a party to that, and shed the blood or take the blood, which means the life of another person, though you are paid to do it, though people are paid to do that. Sometimes you have a hired gunman to do that, and sometimes you have already paid soldiers to do this work too. So soldiers are made into professional killers, ordered by the government, ordered by various governments. So a soldier should be very careful. He has to respect the life in front of him. So that is why John the Baptist mentioned, when soldiers asked him, what advice have you to give us? He said, do not kill women, children, all people, and also the innocent. So it was an injunction and order. Injunction. So therefore, it is unlawful to live on the price of blood. On the price of blood, you become a professional murderer. Whether you are in uniform or out of uniform. If it is so done, it is so. And they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers. So their priest took that money, and they say they bought the potter's field, a field nearby which nobody uses, and they may be using it for making pot or throwing away discarded pots. So it's called the potter's field, to bury strangers. So they bought that and in order to bury strangers who may come that way. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. So even to this day, that is, unto this day means 100 years or 50 years after the demise of Jesus. It was still being called the field of blood. I do not know whether it's still being called in the 20th century. But at that time, 50 to 100 years after Jesus' passing, it was so called. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of which that was valued. So Jesus, that was the value of Jesus' life. 30 pieces of silver. That was the exchange rate. Exchange rate for murder. And whom they of the children of the Israel did value. So, whom they of the children of Israel did value. So that was the value they put upon the holy and the remarkable life of Jesus, the person of Jesus. And gave them for the potter's field as the Lord appointed me. So it was so prophesied in Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, that the potter's field will be bought for 30 pieces of silver. Then Jesus stood before the governor. He just stood, and the governor asked him, saying, "Art thou the king of the Jews?" And Jesus said unto him, "Thou sayest, it is you who say that, not me. I neither affirm it nor deny it. It's not my purpose. It is you who say it. You can say whatever you want, right? It does not mean that that is what I am. You can say it. Art thou the king of the Jews?" And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. And then the chief priests and the elders also who were assembled around Pontius Pilate, they also accused him of many things. But Jesus remained silent. He didn't say a thing. He maintained his peace and his dignity and honor. He just maintained it. He said nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, "Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee?" Then Pilate told Jesus, "Don't you hear how many accusations are being made against you?" And he answered him to never a word. And Jesus did not reply to that even. He didn't even reply. Insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. And when Jesus did not say anything about it, about all the accusations, Pontius Pilate, the governor, he marveled at Jesus. Here is a man who is being accused by all these chief priests, and he never said anything. Never. Just maintained an imperial silence. Now at that feast, the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. Now it was a tradition at that time that on the day of the Passover feast, that it was a custom that the governor would release a prisoner whom they would, whomever the people desired. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. And at that time, the Romans had a notorious prisoner, well known in that area as Barabbas. So therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, "Whom will you that I release unto you?" Whom do you wish that I release? Should I release Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ? Which of the two should I release? Because these are the two prominent ones in question at the moment. For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. For Pontius Pilate knew very well that out of sheer envy, not out of any fault, that they had delivered Jesus unto him for execution. Then when he was set down on the judgment seat, as there was a judgment seat, because Pontius Pilate was now a little perturbed by the ensuing incident that he may have to condemn an innocent man. So therefore he sat on the judgment seat. There was a special seat called the judgment seat, in which justice is adjudicated. Then as he sat, his wife sent him a message, saying, have thou nothing to do with that just man. She sent a message, kindly be careful and see that you have nothing to do with the trial which is going on with that just man. The man is just. Pontius Pilate's wife sent this message to Pontius Pilate. For she said, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. And in a dream I had suffered many things. Many things because of this day. Because of this day, what's going to happen? What may happen? Some very unpleasant dreams have I experienced. Therefore, it is very inauspicious and not okay for you to sit on judgment upon this man, upon this person, upon this innocent person, innocent, just man. That's the word she uses. You don't condemn a just man into gallows. It is a heinous sin, a great sin indeed. But the chief priest and the elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. But what the chief priest and the elders did was, they quietly sent around the word amongst the assembled multitude, ask for Barabbas' release. Ask for Barabbas' release. So they were instigating the masses, the multitude, to ask for Barabbas and not for Jesus. So, that is why it said, the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude by quietly telling that they should ask for Barabbas. And the funny thing is, if one man says, we want Barabbas, like sheep, all the others will get together and say the same thing, Barabbas. So it only takes one priest to say Barabbas, and all the others also, 2 and 3 and 4. They all said, no, we want Barabbas' release. And that is exactly what happened. It is like when one dog barks, simultaneously you find another 10 dogs barking in unison. They know not why they are barking. All that they know is that one barks and all the others begin barking. So same thing here also. So they began shouting Barabbas, not knowing what they are asking for, even understanding or comprehending the significance of such a request. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will you that I release unto you? And they said, Barabbas. So they all shouted, Barabbas. Pilate said unto them, Then what shall I do then with Jesus, who is called Christ? What shall I do with him? All right, you want Barabbas, fine. But what shall I do with the other man? And they all said to him, they shouted, Let him be crucified, let him be crucified. Because crucifixion was the most heinous, painful death inflicted upon a person during the Roman Empire. And the process was extremely painful. Because during crucifixion, it takes 2 to 3 days for a man to slowly die. It's slow death. It's very slow and painful death. And then the governor said, Why do you want him to be crucified? What evil hath he done? What wrong or evil hath this man done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. But they kept on shouting. Like dogs, they kept on shouting, Let him be crucified, let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, so Pilate realized that he could not prevail over the multitude, over their demand or request, but rather a tumult was made and a huge noise was made by this multitude. They began shouting. Then what did Pontius Pilate, the governor, do? He took water and washed his hands before the multitude, and washed his hands and saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See to it, and you too also say to it, I wash my hands of this trial. I am innocent of the blood of this person whom you wish to do. Whom you wished. I am innocent of this. And he washed his hands away. That I got nothing to do with this. It is you who have condemned him and who are executing him. Not me. It is not my wish. So, then answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and our children. So they didn't care. They were vile characters. They said, let his blood be on us and our children too. So that means let us take the blame and let the blame go on to our descendants too, upon our children too. So you...
Were they mad?
They were of course mad. There's no doubt, only insane people. So they were insane with rage. They were insane with rage against Jesus. That was all. And that multitude which had gathered there, they were all the members of the church, of the temple. They were members of the temple, of the synagogue. And they are the priest, and the people associated with the priest.
So what is the carrying significance of the Jews?
Well,
of them saying this, because they're cursing themselves.
Yes, they are cursing themselves. They are really, all that they wanted was the blood of Jesus, the death of Jesus. They didn't care in what way it happened, and the consequences they didn't care of too also. They just didn't care for the consequences. That's what it means. Then released he Barabbas unto them. Then the Pontius Pilate released Barabbas, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. And then he scourged Jesus. Scourge means he with a big thick rope with knots. He whipped him, had him whipped, scourged him, Jesus, and delivered him to be crucified, and delivered him unto the soldiers to be crucified, because that's the work of the soldiers. So he has to only give an order. So before that he had him scourged. Perhaps that was the practice. First you scourge him, that is scourge him with ropes, knotted ropes, and then he was taken to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall. The soldiers took him into the common hall from the inner chamber of the judgment seat area, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers, and all the other soldiers also came together. And what did they do? They stripped him. They removed his robes, his cloth, stripped him. That is said, by when you do that, you disgrace the person. They stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe, and put on Jesus' person a purple robe, scarlet robe, a purple robe. Perhaps those were the tunic of the soldiers, which was purple, perhaps purple in color. Because purple signifies blood, because the soldiers always are involved with murder and killing. So they must have had the purple tunic all the time. So they put the scarlet robe upon the person of Jesus. And when they had plaited a crown of thorns, so they made a crown of thorns in a circular formation. They put it upon his head. They put it upon his head to signify the crown, because he's not considered to be the king of the Jews. So a king must have his crown. So they made a crown of thorns, put it and put it on his head, and a reed in his hand, and a twine in his hand, symbolizing the staff with which a person rules, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him, and they bowed down, they knelt down before him in obeisance to the king, all done in mockery, and mocked him, because this is all mockery, a display of mockery. Mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews, we too kneel down unto thee." So, hail, saying this. And they spit upon him, and they spat upon him. Now that is one of the nastiest things that they could do, to spit upon a person. So they spit upon him, and took the reed from his hand, and smote him on the head, and with that reed they whacked him on the head. They whacked him on the head, hit him on the head. And after that they had mocked him. So in this manner they had mocked at him. They took the robe off from him. They took the robe away from him, and put his own raiment on him. And they put his own Jesus' own raiment cloth on him, and led him away to crucify him. And they took him away to be crucified. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name, a man of Cyrene, from Cyrene. Cyrene, and his name was Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. So they made the man called Simon, who happened to be there, to make him assist in carrying the cross, because it was very heavy. It was very heavy. Now this has got a significance. The significance is this: when a person bears the cross of his life, any person, when you bear your own cross in life, cross here signifies your hardship that a person is going through life. Then unknown to him, unseen by him, he's propped up. He's propped up and supported by the unseen hand of God in man's trials and tribulations and difficulties that he goes through. At that time, in a mysterious manner, the unseen help of God comes to him, and the man knows not, but he is so supported by the unseen hand. So this is exactly what transpired there. It's once again symbolically represented. So every episode of Jesus has got a significance, that each man, when he goes through the difficulties and trials of his and tribulations of his life, and is able to endure it, just as Jesus endured the whole process of being led up to Calvary, bearing that cross, so also the cross of life, which each man may get entrusted during the course of his journey on planet Earth, is supported with the unseen presence of God, which is propping his life up. So that is what it implies. And then when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is the place which is Golgotha is that is to say a place of a skull. It was a rock which had the shape of a skull, so it was called as Golgotha. So at that point where they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, with some sort of herb, vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, and when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink it. When he just sipped a little, he didn't appreciate it, and he didn't drink it any further. And they crucified him, and then they crucified him, put him on the cross, and nailed him and crucified him. So that is a very painful process, wherein his legs are crossed, with his two arms outstretched, and onto his two arms took the palms of his hand. Strong nails were driven so that the body would be suspended, and then at the same time his feet were crossed, and through the feet strong nails were pierced through to cross him onto the wooden post, the cross. So thus they crucified him, which is a very gruesome and painful process.
Put the nose, explain to put the nose.
Yes. Oh no, yes, through the base of the palm. Through the
hands of the wrist.
Yes, so on the wrist.
Yeah, so it takes the bones
On the so that yes, so on the so he was crucified with the nails driven onto just below the wrist, at the wrist point, so that it would hold them, that the body will be held. And they crucified him, and having crucified him, they parted his garments. They took his garments and began parting it, and then thereafter casting lots. So they casted lots, which garment who is to get. And then there was one garment which was whole, which they didn't want to rent. So they casted lots for that robe, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments amongst them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. So of course they parted his other garments, but upon the robe, they made lots. Who is to get this robe? They didn't want to tear that robe into pieces. They did cast lots for that. And sitting down, they watched him there. And sitting down, these fellows watched him die there, impervious to his pain, and set up over his head his accusation written, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." So they put a board there also. "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." They wrote it and put it there, on the cross. Then were there two thieves crucified with him. Then two other thieves too, along with him, were crucified to the left and to the right. One on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads. So those who came by that way, the others, the multitude, who belonged to the favorites of the priest and those who were one with the priest. So they passed by, reviled him, and wagging their heads, and they said many unpleasant things. They reviled him, wagging their head. It's not this fellow fully deserves this. Saying, and also saying, "Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest in 3 days, save thyself." You had indicated and you had mentioned. This was the prime accusation against him, that you will destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. So such a person, that was the prime accusation against Jesus. Since you had said this, "If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross." If you truly are the Son of God, then why don't you come down from the cross and save yourself? From the cross. Likewise also the chief priests mocked him in the similar manner, in the same manner, they mocked him with the scribes and elders. So along the chief priests, the scribes, the elders, they also said the same thing, scorned and told him this: "If you are the Son of God, why don't you come down from the cross? You can if you want to." if you are the Son of God. Huh? That's what they said. Then they also said, He saved others. Of course, Jesus saved others because He had brought, during the course of His life, that He had brought people from death. Huh? And saved others in many ways. Himself He cannot save. He can't save Himself. So what to speak of Him? Huh? If He be the King of Israel, let Him now come down from the cross and we will believe Him. If He is truly the King of Israel, the King of the Jews, let Him now come down and prove it. Come down from the cross and we will believe Him, and then we will believe Him. We will believe Him then. He trusted in God. Let Him deliver him now, if He will have him. For this man trusted in God all through. He trusted Him. But let God deliver him now. Let God protect him now, if He will have him. If He could protect him, let His God protect him now. For He said, I am the Son of God. For He said clearly that I am the Son of God. If He is the Son of God, let His God come and let His God, who is His Father, come and protect him. So they said all these unpleasant statements. The thieves also, which were crucified with Him, cast the same in His teeth. The thieves too beside Him, they also said the same things. Why don't you save yourself? If you claim to be the Son of God, of course we are thieves. It's a different issue. But what about you? Then, now from the 6th hour, there is something very remarkable happened. Very, very remarkable happened. Its significance people do not comprehend. Now, something remarkable happened in that part of the world. Now from the 6th hour, because there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. Jesus' judgment took place at 9 in the morning, the 3rd hour of the day. 3rd hour means from morning 6 a.m. The 3rd hour means 9 p.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. So it is about that time that He was led, His judgment was passed, and He was being led for crucifixion. And then He was crucified. Now from the 6th hour, at about noon time, His crucifixion is taking place. Now from the 6th hour, there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. So from the 6th hour, from 12 noon till 3 p.m. in the afternoon, there was darkness over all the land. So that's a very mysterious phenomenon. How could darkness come during the daytime? But there was something magical about this, that this darkness transpired. And from the 6th hour noon, that is from noon till 3 p.m., darkness was over all the land unto the 9th hour. Darkness. This darkness also is very significant. In order for crucifixion to take place, one must first enter darkness. Enter darkness. For self-crucifixion. Now this crucifixion which transpired for Jesus is symbolic to indicate that Every person in the world will have to undergo personal crucifixion in order to be resurrected as the divine. In order for personal resurrection to transpire, every person has to first enter the darkness, then be crucified, and then thereafter resurrection will take place. So a message and a teaching is being given here. There are 4 things here. The darkness, which is going to transpire, which is transpiring, then crucifixion, then resurrection, and then finally ascension. So this is the process which every person in the world will have to undergo in order to obtain salvation. In order to obtain salvation. Another term for salvation is liberation, liberated from earthly existence. Another word is enlightenment, to be enlightened to one's divine status as God, or to be one with God. These are synonymous terms, depending on which way you want to attribute the meaning to. So thus, from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour, indicating that anyone who wants salvation, who aspires for salvation, must enter this mysterious darkness. Must enter this mysterious darkness in his life. And this darkness has been metaphorically indicated in the scriptures. In the scriptures it has been indicated. The Old Testament indicates it too. And other scriptures too. Other scriptures also indicate this. This initial condition or state which each man should enter consciously, knowingly, in order for resurrection to take place subsequently. So therefore, in order to give humanity a hidden mystical teaching, this darkness descended into the realm of the land, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. And there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice. With a loud voice he cried. He cried means he said aloud, saying, Eli, Eli, lama, Eli, Eli, lama, sabachthani. Now, that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That is one translation. I personally feel this translation is incorrect. And which is popularly mentioned in many places by people. Why hast thou forsaken me? This is not a statement which Jesus would have ever made. It is not possible. Now, the Gospel of Luke, let's refer to that. And that says 23:46, Luke. And in the book, in the Gospel of Luke, it is mentioned. And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. This is more appropriate and correct. So that is what Jesus would have said. That, O my Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. I release my spirit. Which means that is more appropriate. That is what Jesus would have said. That is the meaning. Which means I forsake myself unto thee. That is, I give up myself unto thee. I forsake myself unto thee. I give up myself unto thee. And this is what Jesus would have said. Not lamented there, as some other people try to say. Why did thou forsake me? That's not the meaning or interpretation. So therefore, then, some of them that stood there, so that being the case, some of them that stood there, when they heard that said, this man calleth for Elijah, the prophet Elijah, because they couldn't hear it properly, and the words sound almost same. So they mistook it that this man is shouting for the prophet Elijah. But really it was not so. He said, I give up my spirit unto thee. That was more the appropriate. I give it up unto thee. I release it. I forsake myself unto thee. That's what is more appropriate. And straight away one of them ran, one of those men said, oh, he's calling for Elijah, the prophet Elijah. And straight away one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. So one of them took a sponge and dipped it with vinegar and put it on a reed, on a stick, and gave him to drink. The rest said, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Let us see whether Elias has come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, cried again or said, once again he loudly said, cried again means loudly said with a loud voice. And then having said, yielded up the ghost, yielded up his person. Yielded up the ghost means the spirit or the soul, the spirit or the soul or the self of Jesus left the body. That's what it means. Yielded up the ghost. And what did he say? That with the second time, the first time he said, I yield myself unto thee. And the second time with a loud voice he said, it is finished. What is finished? His mission on planet Earth is finished. That's what he meant. It is finished. It is finished. Means work is over. With this, my work is over. So what was that work which was over? The work was that he had come and given a teaching. He had come and given a teaching. And in that teaching, he had said that you are gods, and to become aware of your God nature, which is the essence of his teaching. And then thereafter, in order to obtain finally, at the end of it, at the end of his mission, in order to obtain salvation, first of all, each person must enter the final stages of salvation, and those final stages were indicated at the end part of his life, at the time of crucifixion, wherein first the darkness descended. So symbolically it is revealed to you that first each person must enter that darkness. Then once that takes place, then crucifixion takes place. After crucifixion, the resurrection. You get resurrected. So crucifixion here symbolically represents the crucifixion of your individuality. Each person must self-crucify his individuality. And this is what is implied by the statement which he had given earlier. When you lose yourself, you will find true life. That's what he means here. So when you lose yourself, when you self-crucify yourself, when you self-crucify your human individuality, which has to be crucified, this human individuality, its fulcrum or center is said to be the ego. So you are that human individual with the ego, and along with the ego, there are many other factors which are entrusted with you. Many other factors. All those factors which go to make the sum total of your human individuality, that has to be crucified. So each person must undergo. That is, your entire life of spiritual living is basically meant to you crucify yourself consciously. Consciously, you have to lose yourself. You have to lose your ego-based individuality or ego-based personality. So that is why Jesus all through his life was filled with humility. So humility, in a humble manner, he went about all over. Except of course in one situation, but otherwise. So each person must consciously, knowing the significance of self-crucifixion, self-crucifying your individuality, each person must consciously undertake, and this is a spiritual journey. This is the spiritual journey of every person, that you have to, in course of your human existence, train and learn to lose your individuality, which is made up of what? It's made up of your passions, of your desires, of your human impulses, human impulses of all categories, and of your human weaknesses, human anger, emotions, all your human emotions, feelings. You have got to now lose all this. So when you lose all this, this is self-crucifixion. You are losing yourself. All your emotions disappear. And you can consciously enable it to happen. If you have got an emotion of love, you can clear it out of your system. Emotion of hatred, anger, ill will, hatred, envy, jealousy, all these emotions, and loves and hates, all these can be cleared by you, and you can crucify them, clear them out of your system, and your ego too, all of these. So this is called self-crucifixion. So it is to impart this lesson that Jesus was crucified. This is the real purpose of his crucifixion, to give you a lesson and a teaching in life that each and every one of you will have to learn to self-crucify oneself. Then when you do so, you will lose yourself and find true life in God. Finding true life is called resurrection. You will get resurrected as the divine. So when you self-crucify yourself, true resurrection as the divine will transpire, and thereafter you will live for another few more years in a human frame, in the human body. In Jesus' instance, a lifetime, he stayed on planet Earth after crucifixion, as one of the other Gospels say, for 40 days. And then each person will ascend. The ascension takes place. Right? So this is the process. And this is being enacted. This drama of life is being enacted in the crucifixion of Jesus. So thus darkness descended, which is a great lesson. It's a great lesson for humanity. Then,
so could I just ask, the darkness really is the trials and tribulations of life? The darkness is the trials and tribulations of life?
No. This is darkness. I'm using the word darkness here. We'll come to that. So darkness, you've got to enter darkness. There is a darkness which each person will have to enter. Will have to enter. And that is why darkness descended. Darkness. There was darkness. In order for salvation to transpire, you have to first enter the mysterious, mystical darkness. Then, and Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, "It is finished," that is, my work or my mission is over, and he yielded up his spirit, he yielded up the ghost. And then immediately, simultaneously, a few other remarkable things happened. When Jesus was parted from the body, that is why he yielded up the ghost, as it says, he yielded up his spirit. And behold, at the same time, few other phenomena took place. The veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. The veil of the temple was rent in twain. The temple in Jerusalem, the main temple, it had two curtains. The veil means a curtains. The outer curtain and the inner curtain. The inner curtain is that which is there within the inner sanctum sanctorum, the inner holy place, the inner holy place. It is that curtain which got rent asunder. Behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain. It was rent asunder into two. From the top to the bottom. From the top to the bottom. Now, a veil is a veil which covers you. Which? Veil or the curtain, veil means curtain, is a curtain or a veil which covers you. Which covers you. Which covers you from your divine status. It's a covering. It's a covering. And covering, it is covering. It is covering your divine status, your divine nature. Hiding. It is hiding, covering. It's covering. It's a veil which covers you. which hides you, which covers you, which veils you. See, if you have a veil in front, you can't see what is behind it. So here also, what was behind, what is within you and behind you, is God. Is God. And that covering, that veil, which covered you from your God status or godly status, was torn asunder, was removed. That veil was removed, and you got enlightened to your God status. So that is why, so it is at that time that Jesus' crucifixion, along with it came along with crucifixion, then resurrection. So you get resurrected as the divine. Resurrected as the divine. So in order for the resurrection to be resurrected as the divine, the veil, the covering which was there covering you from your divine status has to be rent asunder, cleared. So this is the mystical significance there. That veil got cleared, covered it, that was rent asunder. So this is the next thing which follows, and you arrive at your divine status. You're resurrected as this is the resurrection of Jesus. So once again, which is being mentioned over and over again, crucifixion and resurrection. So this is what the resurrection, the next point, the resurrection means. And then thereafter, along with the resurrection, something else happened. So along with the veil was rent asunder. And then simultaneously also, the earth did quake and the rocks rent. And simultaneously there was a huge earthquake. And the rocks around, they also shook. So now what does this mean? The earthquake at that time took place. And they say that this earthquake was very strong and was recorded a long distance away at the same time that it happened. At that same hour that it happened, this incident happened, there was a massive earthquake which was recorded hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Too historically it was recorded and stated that yes, at this time there was an earthquake which transpired. So there was an earthquake which took place. The earth did quake and the rocks rent asunder. Now, what does this mean? What does this signify? That when the earthquake takes place, everything collapses, isn't it? This is the collapsing of the universe, the collapsing of the cosmos. The entire cosmos too collapses. Where? Into you. It collapses into you. That's what it signifies. The whole universe, the entire cosmos will collapse into you or will collapse into your mind. Your mind, which is the only instrument you have on planet Earth to experience whatever you have to experience. Into that mind of yours will the entire universe collapse. And at just about the same time too, the covering which was there in your mind, that too gets cleared and you experience your divine status. So it is this remarkable teaching which has been presented here. So people understood, perhaps till even today, why the veil got rent asunder and why the earthquake transpired. why the earthquake transpired, and why there was darkness on earth at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. So from 12 noon to 3 p.m. there was a darkness, and then thereafter Jesus said, "It is finished." So all these things happened during the course of that day. And then it is said, so this much has been said, and then the text continues, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. Now this is something which is incorrect. Of course, many bodies of the saints which slept arose. Saints don't sleep there. Neither does mortal man sleep in the grave. His spirit or his soul is not there in the grave. It is only bones which are there. The bones, the flesh which has decayed, and the bones which are there in all the graves. But the soul of man, the spirit of man is never there indeed. When a burial takes place, the spirit of man is no more there. He has gone away. So therefore, what it means is, and came out, and the text says, and the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept came out of the graves after his resurrection. No, that it is not so. It is not that they came out because they were never there. They were never there. But then, if perchance, the saints at the time of resurrection went into the holy city and appeared unto many, if that be the case, then what has happened is, the saints who were the holy ones or the saints whose configuration was there in the universe, they appeared unto man in the city, in the holy city of Jerusalem. Right? They appeared as an apparition to signify that something remarkable had happened, and they too had come to witness this incident. Because in this situation, it is not that Jesus underwent a tremendous, unpleasant experience, but the whole incident was a teaching and a lesson to mankind. And the angels and the gods and the saints also may have appeared there to validate and to acknowledge the profound incident which had just transpired, to acknowledge it, that something wonderful had transpired at this time in Jerusalem. All right, we'll stop here and continue. Om Tat Sat.